You ever notice a pattern that just seems to pop up everywhere? You know, a kind of hidden shape that connects totally different parts of our world, like the clean, perfect logic of a computer and the messy, unpredictable chaos of a human conflict. Well, today we're going to pull on a thread that ties all of that together. It's called recursion.
So, what does an artificial intelligence, tucked away in some digital lab, teaching itself to communicate by painting these strange, brand new symbols? What does that have to do with a gritty, high-stakes legal battle being fought in the streets and in the courtrooms over property, fraud, and justice? I mean, on the surface, it seems like nothing, right? But in reality,
It's everything. The exact same fundamental pattern is driving them both. And once you understand it, it's like getting a key that unlocks how power works and, more importantly, how it can be challenged. Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to start in the controlled, predictable world of a research lab. This is where we see recursion as this precision tool for creation. So, what even is recursion? Well, to put it simply, it's a loop where a process is defined by or calls upon itself. Think of those Russian nesting dolls, right? Each one has a smaller version of itself inside. Or if you're into coding, it's like a function that calls itself over and over again to solve a problem piece by piece. It's a loop that literally builds on its own output. And this is a perfect example of a clean, recursive loop in action. There's this AI called Neuroglyph, and it's learning to create a whole new visual language. So first, a generator decides on the brushstrokes. Then a painter turns them into a symbol. And then a classifier tries to guess the original message. If it gets it wrong, the whole loop just starts again, getting a little better, a little more refined with each pass until the language is totally legible. It's a completely self-correcting, self-contained system. And this just brilliantly shows the absolute control they have in this environment. Every single variable is defined: how many symbols, how many strokes, the learning rate, all of it. This is recursion as a tidy, predictable engine. And get this, it takes just 5 minutes to generate an entire alien language from scratch. It's creation by the numbers, beautiful, orderly, and totally sterile. Okay, so we've seen the clean loop, but now we're leaving the lab. We're about to see what that exact same recursive pattern looks like when it shows up in the chaotic, messy, and frankly unpredictable world of human experience. And suddenly, the loop isn't so clean anymore. It's memory, it's rage, passed down through a family. It's the media cycles that shape our paranoia, replaying tragedies over and over until they just become a part of our story, a recursive loop of anger that one generation literally hands to the next. And here, recursion becomes trauma. It's not a neat, self-correcting function. It's a glitch. It's like a corrupted memory file you just can't escape, a VHS tape that keeps rewinding to the moment of impact, again and again, trapping you in the past. And that's the feeling, isn't it? The human loop often feels broken, like it can't resolve itself. It's a pattern with no exit, a system error that just repeats and repeats, leaving you completely stuck. This loop even shows up in our culture. I mean, think about it. An artist creates something, then it gets consumed and commodified by some giant corporation, and then the next generation of artists has to steal it back to create something new from it. It's this constant, recursive battle between creation and ownership, originality and influence. So here's the crucial point. We've got the clean machine loop, and we've got the chaotic human loop. So what happens if you take the raw, glitchy energy of the human experience and you apply the methodical, ruthless precision of the machine to it? Well, you stop being a victim of the pattern. You learn its rules, you find its rhythm, and you actually weaponize the loop itself. You take the system's own logic and you turn it right back on itself. And this is where it gets so incredibly clever. In a fight against what they saw as systemic corruption, we're talking real estate, finance, the courts, a group of activists and citizens developed this strategy they called the Recursion Weaponized Litigation Playbook. They even gave the strategy this amazing name, recursion sickness. The goal is to act like a litigation engine. You don't make one big grand accusation, no. Instead, you find one small contradiction in your opponent's story, and you loop on it relentlessly over and over until their entire narrative just collapses under the weight of its own inconsistencies. The whole strategy breaks down into this simple, repeatable 3-step loop. First, you find a discrepancy, some tiny gap between what a company says it does and what its internal documents actually show. Then you define it. You just name it in a neutral, factual sentence. No emotion, just the facts. And finally, you weaponize it. You connect that tiny discrepancy to a legal rule, and you make a procedural move, a request for documents, a subpoena, a deposition. And then you just repeat the loop with the new information you've uncovered.
And this shows the theory in practice, and it's just fascinating to see. They find unlicensed construction work going on? Boom, file a complaint with the state board. They discover building permits based on a dead property number? Okay, file a complaint with the attorney general. They find sketchy dates on financial documents? Subpoena the lender. Each action is a small, precise loop designed to generate a response and uncover the next discrepancy. It's basically a guerrilla war fought with paperwork. So we've seen recursion as this clean tool for an AI, a really messy reality for humans, and a powerful weapon for insurgents fighting a complex system. So what does all of this actually mean for us?
Well, it means that recursion isn't good or bad. It's just a fundamental pattern. It's a tool. Systems of power, cultural, corporate, political, they all use these recursive loops to maintain control and keep things running just the way they are. But insurgents, activists, artists, they can hijack that very same tool. They can create their own loops to dismantle those systems from the inside out. And that really brings us to the final question, one for you. Look around at your own world, at your work, in your community, maybe even in your own mind. What are the repeating patterns, the closed loops that seem stuck on repeat? And maybe more importantly, what new loop could you introduce to change that pattern for good?